Did you know that a service outage cost a business a whopping $1 million every hour? Yes, every hour. That's crazy, right? In 2015, Apple had an outage on their App Store, and it cost the company a loss of $25 million. A year later, in 2016, Delta Airlines had to cancel 2,000 flights because they had a power outage in their operation center, losing around $150 million. What about Facebook? We don't expect Facebook to be in the list. But in 2019, Facebook had an outage which cost the company $90 million. Now you can argue that for a small business or a startup, the numbers wouldn't be so great. And you are right. A study of 101 startups resulted that 29% of them failed or went bankrupt because of cash flow problems. So adding downtime to their services, it's surely not going to help. Now, when there's a service outage, one also needs to consider that it doesn't only affect revenue, but it's also toxic for reputation. And when it comes to either a big business or a small business, reputation is very important. An example would be if you come to this platform, youtube.com, you always expect the website to load. But if 10% or even less than that, 5% of the time, YouTube does not work, then you lose faith on the platform. And the same thing applies to other businesses. Now, if you have a business, resiliency to your services and having a good disaster recovery is very good and important. But have you ever heard of the term prevention is better than cure? Yes, right? A good monitoring system can help you prevent downtime and also saves you a lot of money and frustration. In this video, I'm going to talk about Zabbix and Grafana, comparing the two. But before we get into that, let's jump into something more important. Now, before going into more details about monitoring, I want to explain two main things, which are logs and metrics. Now, logs and monitoring are the foundation of monitoring. Therefore, I would like to explain these two before we continue further on with this video. So let me explain logs. Logs, it's like me writing in my journal that today I met my friend Wayne at 10 a.m. We went for a coffee and at around 11 we went round the shops. Then at 12 we went back home. That is logs for you, and a system will do the same thing. So now let's take metrics. Metrics is like me going to the doctor and the doctor measures my heartbeat, or if I'm not feeling well, the doctor will take my temperature. And comparing it to a system, you can measure CPU as a metric, memory as a metric, ping, i.e. ICMP as a metric, all these things. Now I got that out of the way, so let's jump right into comparing Zabbix and Grafana. Now, when we come to Zabbix and Grafana, they're the most used monitoring system out there, at least in my opinion. But looking at LinkedIn, there's lots of jobs asking you to know about the two products, especially Grafana, where it's used a lot in cloud environments. So if you're here and you're looking for a job or you're applying for the job, this video will give you a good insight of both products, so you can talk about them in your interview. Or if you're here because you're looking to install Zabbix or Grafana to monitor your systems, by the end of this video, you'll have a good insight of the two products. Now with Zabbix and Grafana, I'm going to compare both using what features do they have, how scalable it is, and also how easy is it to install. Now with Zabbix, you can monitor networking devices using SNMP or cloud services, containers, and also virtual machines. When it comes to virtual machines, you can install the Zabbix agents, which is supported on Linux, Windows, and also Mac. And you can monitor from an OS level, which means that it supports OS level monitoring. You can monitor log files, databases, services, applications, IoT services, HTTP or HTTPS, and also external API endpoints. Now, when it comes to monitoring, no one is going to be staring at a monitor 24/7. So we would need a good alerting system. Now with Zabbix, it does support SMS alerts, email alerts, Microsoft Teams, or Slack. When it comes to dashboards, with Zabbix, you can display graphs with problems you have, what services are down, and you can install various widgets. Now, one thing that is really cool about Zabbix is actions. With actions, you can create scripts and then action those scripts according to what's happening within your systems. An example would be Apache is down and you can create a script to restart Apache service. So that can be very, very useful. How scalable is Zabbix? Well, to answer that question, it depends how much resources you have, meaning how much hardware available you have. When it comes to scalability, you can scale up if you have a very good design. An example would be having a front end, a database server, and then you'll have proxies, and your proxies will be close to the services you'll be monitoring. Then those proxies will feed back everything to the main server, which is the front end. Now that we know the features of Zabbix and also how scalable it is, let's jump to Grafana. Now Grafana software is actually not a monitoring software itself. It's more of displaying the nice metrics and logs in a nice dashboard. However, with the Grafana system, you would normally have Prometheus, which is another software that collects metrics. Then Grafana can use Prometheus to display that metrics. Now for reference, in this video, when I mention Grafana, I'm referring to Grafana working with Prometheus. Like Zabbix, you can monitor cloud services, containers, and virtual machines, and you can also install an agent for your OS level monitoring. With Grafana, you can monitor log files, databases, services, IoT services, external LPIs, and with Grafana, you can also use SNMP to collect metrics from networking devices. Well, you would need an SNMP exporter component. However, yes, it can be done with Grafana. Now, when it comes to Zabbix and Grafana, both of them support multiple alerting systems, and the list is quite long. So I will put a link to the list in the description below. Now, Grafana and Prometheus are very scalable if set up correctly. Now, when setting up Prometheus, I recommend you to set it up in a way where you can scale horizontally rather than vertical. And the reason behind it is that when you want to add more resources to it, you'll be adding multiple instances rather than having a monolithic server and adding CPU and memory. Using this architecture is more scalable. Now, when you install a monitoring software, you usually set it up once, and if you have set it up correctly, from time to time you go in and install some patches or updates. And it's the same thing with Zabbix. Now with Zabbix, there are two components that you would need to install. Number one would be the Zabbix frontend, and number two would be proxy. Now Zabbix can be installed on the main Linux distros like Rocky Linux, CentOS OS, or if you're like me, prefer Ubuntu. You can add Zabbix repository to your apt sources and then run a few apt commands. When installing Zabbix frontend, I recommend you to run your database in a separate instance. If you prefer to run Zabbix in a Docker container, Zabbix officially provides portable images, so you can run your Zabbix in a Docker container. Now Grafana also comes with multiple components, with Grafana being the most important one. This can be installed on the main Linux distros like Debian or CentOS, or if you're like me, on a Ubuntu server, and this can be done by adding Grafana repositories to your apt sources and then run your usual apt commands. If you prefer to go the Docker route, then you can easily do this because Grafana does officially support it. The other important component is Prometheus, and Prometheus can be installed by downloading it first, then untarring it, and then installed to a Linux OS. If you prefer to go the Docker route, then this can also be achieved. Now Grafana is a bit more difficult to install. However, once it's installed, one can enjoy the beautiful dashboards that you can build with Grafana. Grafana and Prometheus, from a feature perspective, are very close if you consider Prometheus as being part of Grafana. Otherwise, Zabbix wins because it's a complete package. Now, when it comes to scalability, I think both software, they scale very well, and I think this is a draw. Grafana is more difficult to install, and you need to rely on other software like Prometheus being its data source. Zabbix is more straightforward since it's a complete package. To be honest, I would prefer to take the Docker route if I'm going with Grafana. Now, both software are open source. However, they both offer premium support, with Grafana offering a cloud solution, so you don't have to hassle with installing Grafana components at all. If you have experience with Zabbix or Grafana or both, I would like you to comment below, and I would like to hear also your experience. If you like my video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. It will encourage me to do more videos like this.